I do think Jalen Hurts could be a successful quarterback. I just don't think his time is now. I saw flashes last year. I saw glimpses and pieces. I think my biggest concern is you've got a guy who's predicated on RPOs but has no time to throw. So a lot of times it becomes a moving pocket, him throwing on the run, bad throws mixed with good throws. And I just don't have a lot of confidence in that Eagles offensive line. And I think he's going to be under duress.
McMullen and McDonald, your Mac and Mac host here on Birds 365. How you doing, Bird Nation? You should have some fun over the next couple of minutes with our next guest. You should recognize the face. He's been on with us before. We had him on before the draft, after the draft, and now it's time to start talking draft again. Ric Serritella of NFL Draft Bible and Sports Illustrated. Rick, how did you enjoy your 5 days off after the NFL draft?
Hey, I got a little walk on the beach this morning, so I'm fresh off the beaches of the Jersey Shore, rejuvenated with the 2022 mock draft. But yeah, it's just a carryover at this point. We just turn the page and keep it moving.
Well, glad you got a walk in, Rick. What shore are you at, by the way?
I'm down here. Yeah, good old, Lavalette, New Jersey, exit 82 for all my Parkway folks. So right in between Eagles territory and Giants territory. I get the best or the worst of both worlds, I guess.
Straddling the line. Yeah, I love it. Love the Parkway exit. True Jersey guy, Ric Serritella. I want to start, Rick, with quarterbacks. Everybody was talking about the lead up to the 2021 process, and this group was so much better than the 2022 group. And I open up your mock draft, and sure enough, quarterbacks, they always get pushed up the board.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the common denominator around the league, right? If you look at the teams who are in the playoffs, usually they've got a good quarterback, and I think it oftentimes dictates success. And, I don't think it's because the quarterback classes are suddenly so great that we see these enormous amount of quarterbacks being taken in the first round. I think it's a byproduct. When you look around the league, you see a lot of younger faces in the front offices, at GM positions, at the head coach level. And I think the younger guys we've seen are more willing to wheel and deal. You've seen a lot more trades at the trade deadline, in the offseason, during the draft. And I also think that, society, sports as a whole, we've got a short patience. They're very quick to move on these days. And the latest CBA agreement made it possible so that if you drafted in years past Jamarcus Russell, Sam Bradford, you were anchored for 5 years. Now you can move on next year, no problem.
Yeah, it is a what have you done for me lately league. All right. Part of what a mock draft is all about is projection. Basically, all of it is what it's all about, is projection. Not only how good the players are going to be, but at this stage, you also have to try and figure out where the team is going to finish in the standings, because you're going to attach a player to a team. You had the Philadelphia Eagles drafting 4th. So that's good news, Eagle fans, because Rick thinks there are 3 teams worse than the Eagles in the NFL this year. Yeah, all right, Rick, thanks for that. Do us a favor. Give us the top 4 picks, and then we'll go from there. With the Eagles being the 4th team selected, tell us who you've got drafting 1, 2, 3, and who they're taking that the Eagles don't have a shot at if they are picking 4th.
Yeah, thanks for throwing me to the Sharks there, Jody. So yeah, I do have the Eagles picking 4th, and I will say this: I was listening to the earlier segment, and I agree. I do think Jalen Hurts could be a successful quarterback. I just don't think his time is now. I saw flashes last year. I saw glimpses and pieces. I think my biggest concern is you've got a guy who's predicated on RPOs but has no time to throw. So a lot of times it becomes a moving pocket, him throwing on the run, bad throws mixed with good throws. And I just don't have a lot of confidence in that Eagles offensive line. And I think he's going to be under duress. I think there's a lot of aging parts up front on both sides. I look at the secondary, not thrilled about that. So, I look around the NFC East too. I think Washington got better. The Giants got better. Washington upgraded their quarterback. Dallas, I think, is looking to rebound with the healthy Dak and Ezekiel Elliott. So, they're up against it. And so that's the logic there. The useless Texans, I believe I have number one. And, listen, I think Deshaun Watson may have played his last game for the Texans. It appears that way anyway. And I think Lincoln Riley, what he's done at Oklahoma, he knows how to pick them now. We saw what Hurts did in that offense. It kind of catapulted his draft stock. You saw Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray run that offense efficiently, win the Heisman Trophy, go on to become the number one pick. So I think Spencer Rattler has the perfect storm, and he is actually, I think, according to Vegas, the odds-on favorite, not only to be the Heisman, but I do think the number one pick. So Rattler to the Texans. We had Sam Howell, the North Carolina quarterback, who actually reminds a lot of folks of Baker Mayfield, going number 2 to Detroit. I think Detroit's in a rebuilding program and has a lot of work to be done. Jared Goff's the perfect stopgap guy. They can put some pieces around him, let him absorb all the hits this year, go find themselves a quarterback. And Mac Brown, the coach at UNC, has already been on record saying, hey, we don't expect Sam Howell back for another season. So he's all but done. And then number 3, it's got to be the New York Jets. So Kayvon Thibodeau, they're probably the best overall player from Oregon. I had a chance to see him up close 2 years ago as a freshman, and he looked like a man amongst boys then. You talk about a 43 hand in the dirt defensive end who could be in contention if the Eagles don't go quarterback and are picking high. But that is how we see it. And it's a lot to be happening and transpiring here between now and April. But hey, we got to begin somewhere.
Whoa. You gave us the 3 before. Now you got to actually kind of tell us who you got going to the Eagles, because there's something to be said here for taking a guy from not a major program with the first name Carson. Are you really going there? Ric Serritella, that's what you got the Eagles doing in number 4?
Well, I luckily he'll remind you of Carson Palmer and not Carson Wentz.
Okay.
And so, my thing is too, guys, you talk about a 17th game. Sports Business Journal, who is pretty knowledgeable with the TV networks, said that by 2025 there will be an 18th game.
Wow.
And I look around the league and I see guys, we mentioned Kyler Murray, we saw Russell Wilson, and even Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl when they got hurt and their mobility was limited and they were forced to be pocket passing quarterbacks, didn't work out so well. And so with the added games, I feel like the league is trending more towards you're going to have 2 quarterbacks, especially with the mobile athletic types that like to run around. It's funny. I saw a mainstream media outlet the other day put out a top quarterback ranking list. Tom Brady was number 6, and we'll just leave them nameless. But to me, I still believe there's a home, and a lot of scouts in the league will say, hey, well, they're ancient dinosaurs, the Tom Brady, the Joe Flacco's types. But this Carson Strong from Nevada, he's got a strong arm. He's a pocket passing quarterback. And I think, if he replicates what he did a season ago, teams aren't going to be able to deny that kind of talent. And he's on the West Coast. He's on a lot of late night TV, so folks don't really see him a whole heck of a lot. But, that's just my theory on the pocket passing quarterback. They're being pushed out of the NFL. But, last time I checked, the Eagles won with the pocket passer. The Bucks won with the pocket passer. It still works.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Rick, if Carson Strong is as mechanically fundamentally sound as Carson Palmer, I'll take that, man. Quarterbacks coach in this, Eagles are picking 4th in the draft. They're taking a quarterback, period. That means they had an unsuccessful season. So either they get Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, or they're taking a quarterback at number 4. I love the thought process.
Yeah, and it goes back to the common denominator factor, right? You look at the teams year after year. I look at all the teams with the top picks in the draft. There's your reason why the quarterbacks are coming off the board. They don't got one.
Yeah.
That kind of lends itself to, and now we got to be very careful because it's 17 games. 4, 12, and 1, or 4 and 13. You got to get those numbers right now because it's 17. Yeah. We haven't been doing it this way for very long.
Yeah.
Let's hope the Eagles are better than that. All right. Carson Strong arm quarterback, pocket quarterback, was part of your thinking that Nick Sirianni is now the head coach, and Sirianni had stay-at-home quarterbacks his couple years in Indianapolis, starting with Luck? Brissett could make some plays out of the pocket and from the next level, but certainly this past year with Phillip Rivers, at this stage of his career, he was certainly only a pocket quarterback. Is that part of why you had Carson Strong ending up as an Eagle at pick number 4?
Yeah, I think part of it was the fit, and it goes along the lines of what Sirianni is looking to do. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think the whole Jalen Hurts experiment is exactly that. Like, hey, let's cook something up in the laboratory, see if we can develop an offense around this guy. If it works, hey, we might have struck gold here with a second-round pick. If not, again, the salary isn't going to restrict them from moving on, turning the page, finding that next potential franchise signal caller. And they do have, I believe they brought in Joe Flacco, didn't they?
Yeah.
As a backup. And I'll be honest with you guys. Unfortunately, I watched every single Jets game last year, and the best quarterback I saw was Joe Flacco. I mean, he really got that offense moving. So I think you talk about a contingency plan, with the neck, can he start long spurts? Probably not. But hey, when Wentz went down, Foles came in, they rode that magic carpet ride. I don't think that's a scenario that's too far-fetched down the road as they get down in the season.
Well, I can tell you one thing about Joe Flacco, Rick. He can still throw it, man. You've been at many practices. When that ball comes out of somebody's hand, it's got a live arm. You hear that noise. You still hear that noise with Joe Flacco. And you're concerned about some of the receivers and dislocated fingers. He can still throw it. But when you talk about your top 10, I think you have 4 or 5 quarterbacks. I wanted to talk to you about specifically Strong. As you mentioned, plays at Nevada, not the most high-profile school, but also Malik Willis, because he's playing at Liberty. Now, obviously, he's a transfer, but how much more difficult does that make it in the evaluation process? Because obviously, it's not Alabama, it's not Oklahoma, it's not Clemson.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, Mac Jones was a hard evaluation, and he did play at Alabama. So, I mean, the quarterback is so tough. There's a reason why it's the biggest miss rate in the first round, and it's a tough position to evaluate overall, just because of, I hate to say it, the simplicity of the collegiate offenses, and you've seen that trickle into the NFL now, but you don't really know until you sit down. And I think the quarterback position, these guys are all talented. It's really evaluating the person, the maturity, the ability to learn, the leadership, the intangibles, the off the field. Now, Carson Strong has a couple of collarbone issues from his high school days, early Nevada days, that might, give NFL teams a little bit leeriness, depending on how that checks out. That's the information we're not privy to. And so I think a lot of it is the character, the DNA, the Ryan Leafs of the world, the Jeff Georges of the world. There's no doubt they could sling it. It was between the ears, the JP Losmans, coming from a Tulane. You say, wow, this guy's got a cannon of an arm. But then you get in, and I remember, $1 million arm, 2-cent head from our NFL Draft Bible publication. So, going back to Malik Willis, though, you do see the body of work where they played Coastal Carolina, a ranked opponent. I think they have a couple of P5 teams on the schedule this year, and that's really where he'll be under the microscope. How did he perform against the top competition? But when you watch this guy and what he does, strong arm, cool as a cucumber, ability to extend plays in the pocket, everything is all there. And you talk about a guy like Trey Lance, the way he catapulted to the top of the draft. I don't know. I like what I see a little bit more. I believe the ceiling is higher for Malik Willis than it is of Trey Lance.
Wow.
Well, if the prediction is correct, and Ricky, I know it's unfair to even hold you to this. We're just having fun with you. If he is the selection at number 4 or 5, 6, wherever he is, if the Eagles take him, I think it's mandatory that he has to wear Carson Wentz's old number, because there may be some people out there with a jersey that says Carson number and Strong across the top, which means it would fit, or Carson across the top, which means it should fit. So that's my only prerequisite, that he's got to wear Carson Wentz's number when he comes here to Philadelphia. All right, so you got him going quarterback at number 4, and you have him selecting again at number 16, and you're suggesting that would be the Dolphins pick, the trade they made when they traded back and then traded back up and got Devonta Smith, but they acquired the Dolphins first-round pick. You got him slotted in right in the middle at number 16, and after drafting a quarterback with their first pick, you got them going back over to the defensive side for their next pick.
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, the defensive end. We talked about some of that age up front, and Brandon Graham, I believe, will be 34 years old. Ryan Kerrigan, which I really like that pickup there, was a one-year rental, so we don't know if he'll be back next year. I think there's a couple other free agents or two along that defensive line. So to me, Aiden Hutchinson is a guy from Michigan that can come in and play with his hand in the dirt or stand up, but I think he would fit in with the Eagles with the hand in the dirt, come off the edge, ability to get after the quarterback, and inject some youth into the defensive line, right? I mean, we need to kind of get some younger bodies, both on the offensive and defensive line, and kind of, going back to the Jalen Hurts experiment, it's like, hey, why not see what we have? Give us a season to evaluate in-house. I don't think the front office is thinking we're getting primed up for a Super Bowl run here. I think it's kind of a rebuild year. Let's evaluate in-house, figure out what kind of pieces we have, and then go get after it with 3 first-round picks. That's very enticing.
All right, let me, John, I'll let you get in here in a second, but I have to ask this question. Hutchinson, defensive end, Michigan, middle of the first round. Going to ask you to do the project game again. 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now. Who's a better pass rusher coming out of U of M, Hutchinson or Kwity Paye? Because my partner was a big Kwity Paye fan. He was trying to get the Eagles to draft Kwity Paye. I actually thought Kwity Paye was a little overrated in the draft. So I'm hoping you're going to tell me you think Hutchinson projects as a better defensive end than Kwity Paye, the guy that McMullen desperately wanted the Eagles to take.
I think if you're asking me today, it's easier to say Kwity Paye because he's just more polished. I think he's more ready to step in and compete. But if you're asking me in April, after I have a whole nother season to see how much he's developed and progressed, because players do improve their final season in college football, I think the ceiling is greater. So I think you come talk to me in March, it might be a different answer. But if I was building a team today, I'd probably say Kwity Paye, who I believe really found himself in an ideal situation. I think about what Justin Houston was able to do at the tail end of his career in that defensive scheme a year ago on a 2025 rep count. I could see Kwity Paye filling a similar role and being in contention for that NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, again, Rick, I like the fit at 16. I like your thinking, and I think it really clarifies how the draft is about more than 1 year, because as you mentioned, Brandon Graham's still here, but he's going to be 34. Derek Barnett's going to be a free agent. He's on a contract year. Josh Sweat's on a contract year. Ryan Kerrigan's on a prove-it deal. So what looks like a strength today is probably going to be a significant need next April. But the biggest need in Philadelphia is pretty obvious, and that's your 3rd first-round pick, the cornerback position. Right now it's Darius Slay and who? Right now,
Ric Serritella. I think Rick is CB2 for the Eagles right now.
Yeah, I'm ready. I got 13 reps in the body. Listen, and to your previous point, John, it's so true, because the best teams are masterful at parting with the player a year too early than a year too late. But in order to do that, you've got to be able to project and see the upcoming free agency class. Say, hey, I've got to have this guy in tow so that we can do that and part ways a year too early. So, cornerback, I mean, it was cringeworthy, right? Watching Avonte Maddox operate on the outside. Ooh. Good player, feisty kid. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, he really shouldn't be playing on the boundary. I think they lack size. I think they lack depth. I didn't really see too much that really addressed that area of need. And in a league where they pass the ball 70% of the time, they are really not well equipped, and that's why I had Kaiir Elam from Florida, who's bringing some bloodlines now and has the length 6'1" and change, 6'2", really body beautiful Paul Orndorff type of player.
I love Paul Orndorff.
Yeah, there you go. So first one off the bus, good looking player as a corner, great length, great size, can mix it up, play physical, can play man, can play zone. And I really believe he has a chance to be one of the top corners off the board. I've got Derek Stingley Jr. as the first corner, who in my mock, I said, this will be the closest thing Jerry Jones ever sees to prime time, because Stingley has been talked about playing on both sides of the ball. And so Stingley, Khair Elam, some of the best corners, I think, in the 2022 draft.
Yeah, I've seen the kid Stingley play before because he's an LSU guy and the SEC. I think the SEC develops cornerbacks as well as any league. I always get ticked. Ricky, you know this. I get ticked off when people make statements like, yeah, but the previous players at University X at that position couldn't get the job done. So that means this player's not going to. It's the whole Justin Fields thing, because the quarterbacks underachieved coming out of Ohio State. Justin Fields is going to underachieve too. It has nothing to do with anything. But if you give me at least a broader canvas to paint on, like an entire conference for a position, I'll accept some of that. And it just seems like SEC corners on a year in, year out basis jump into the NFL and are potential star players in the first round of the draft.
Yeah, and Alabama does as good a job as anybody. They just reload every year. They've got another potential first-round corner in Josh Jobe, who's just been buried on the depth chart there. And now he's going to have his opportunity to kind of showcase himself. And a lot of people projecting him as a potential first-round pick, as the running back, Brian Robinson, who you didn't see all season long. Then all of a sudden, the championship game, Nick Saban goes into his recruitment mode and hands the ball off to Brian Robinson, who could have probably been a mid-round pick just based off of his pedigree, his size, his speed, 6 foot 224 speed. I mean, here's a guy who maybe got 20 carries all season long. He could now kind of catapult. So yeah, SEC, there's a reason why, you see 50, 60 plus players selected from the NFL draft. Almost 20% of all draft picks come from the SEC.
All right, Rick, I see the polo shirt. Tell me about Hub Football. And also, Jody and I need some new polos. So tell Don Yee, XX. Jody's a little bit smaller. I'm a big guy. But yeah, tell us about Hub Football right now.
Yeah, we can make that happen. In fact, we're going to announce today on my show at 9. The Hub Football is going to be doing another free agent showcase camp July 18th in San Diego, right there in Don Yee's backyard. For the novice football fan, if you work in football, you're very familiar with Don Yee. If you're a casual fan, you might not know he's one of the more prominent agents and reps the likes of Tom Brady and Sean Payton. And so what he's, rolled out a carpet here for NFL teams to kind of save money by not having to fly in, try out guys, put them up in a hotel with the COVID and the quarantine, feed them, test them, which is costly, and then work them out. It's a bit of a process. They can send a area scout that's on the West Coast, come check out 60, 70 players at one time who we're getting feedback and lists from the NFL team. So we're actually working with them to say, hey, who would you like to see at the workout? We'll try to do our best to get them there. And we've had great success with it. 1 out of 4 players is signing a pro contract with the NFL or CFL. And you guys saw with the limited rookie tryouts this year, teams were only allowed to bring in 5 guys. 5 guys. Yeah. And years past, there was upwards of 20 or more. And so it's just become really difficult still for the 2020 draft class, also for the 2021 draft class. And so this has been something that's just kind of caught like wildfire. The registrations now are in the hundreds. And so we have a whole scouting department that watches the film, selects these guys. It's a scouting voting process to get into the event. It's invite only. It's an exact replica of a Tuesday workout, OTA style. And I'm just happy to be a small part of it. It's just been a tremendous amount of fun.
And although it's down the road a little bit with the return of the USFL, you may be helping guys get more jobs, if not on the NFL level, just below. All right, one last thing before we let you go, Ricky. And I'm going to put you to test a little bit, if not pimp you.
Of course.
If I tell you the 5 quarterbacks that you have going in your top 10 picks of the NFL draft, none of them are going to be the best quarterback in college football this year. the best quarterback in college football is going to be a non-draft eligible QB, and he's going to play this year at the University of Clemson. That quarterback's last name would be what?
Well, that is a tough test.
Alugale.
He can't say it. I can't say it. I guarantee you McMullen can't say it.
No way.
By next year, we'll all be able to say it. Because he's going to be the number one pick in the draft in Ric Serritella's 2023 mock draft. I'm going to give it a shot here. TJ Ungalele.
There you go.
I think that's the way it's pronounced, but I'm not even sure about. Believe me, we'll all get used to it. We got 2 years because you got to have another year in college football before he becomes draft eligible. But he's going to be a star. How many articles are you going to have to write about him the next 2 years, Serritella?
Well, there's going to be a lot of articles and a lot of reps in the mirror. I think somebody was practicing in the mirror with that one.
Yeah.
But keep a lookout too. This Grayson McCall from Marshall, really good looking quarterback, was a true freshman last year. Keep an eye on him. And then somebody who is draft eligible, who didn't make the mock draft, someone worth keeping an eye on, Cincinnati Bearcats quarterback Desmond Ridder. He's one of these dual threats that's going to be in the Heisman contention if Cincinnati rolls off victories like they were a year ago.
Ricky, good stuff. Always appreciate it whenever you come on board. And feel free to get back out on the beach there, buddy. Yeah, living a tough life on the Jersey Shore. Thanks for coming on with us today, bud.
No, I appreciate it, guys. And I know we're out of time, but I'll leave you with this one nugget, and maybe you guys, I'll listen to see if you guys discuss it at all. Okay. I did get back to a training camp for the first time in 2 years up the Parkway here at the Meadowlands, and I found it fascinating that NFL stadiums will be full capacity this year. However, media access will continue to be restricted. It sounds like the media policy in the NFL will neglect media from being allowed inside the locker room. I just find it fascinating, and I think this might be a change in media coverage that could be here to stay. And it's a really dangerous road that we're going down. So
never let a good crisis go to waste, Rick. That's how the NFL looks at this.
That's one of McMullen's favorite lines. And yes, we talked about it yesterday. We'll probably talk about it again more today. Ricky, thanks for helping pilot the show for us. The check is in the mail. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thank you.
That's Ric Serritella, NFL Draft Bible, here with us on Birds 365. I will say this. I was on WIP last night, and I got a piece of information that I didn't know. Shame on me that I didn't know it, but I did find out I had Scott Lauber from the Inquirer on, Philly beat reporter, outstanding.
They're allowed on the field now.
Today is the first day that baseball media is allowed back on the field in pregame activities. And that is basically batting practice. There's no such thing as infield practice, but some of the guys come out and stretch so that maybe you can get a minute, get a question or two in with a guy. At least baseball is giving the media that accessibility. You guys get your grass time at the gatherings during the spring. I don't know exactly how much you guys are able to get players aside and be able to get information and do lengthy stories. Yeah, not so much. But baseball is at least trending in that direction. I am 100% with Rick. I do not think the NFL is going to open up the locker room this year. I think you guys are going to have to Zoom your life away again. And I think baseball is going to hold the fort as well. I do not think that reporters are going to get back into the locker room between now and the World Series. I think this entire year. Now, next year for baseball, and that's pretty far down the road, could be a different story. But yeah, I'm with Rick. I don't think you guys are getting back.
Yeah, I mean, the pro football writers are fighting for everything they possibly can. Basically, they've already made the decision for training camp. It will be Zoom. Now, I think there's going to be a little bit of give and take where maybe you can get players coming off the field in an open air environment. We'll see how that shakes out. Locker rooms are definitely not going to be open. But that's not as big as a deal during the preseason because you have so many opportunities to grab guys getting off the field. So we'll see if they allow us to do that. That's what I'm concerned about for training camp. Then when you get in regular season mode, that's where open locker rooms really matter, both during the week after practice and obviously after games. I don't think we're getting that, but we'll see. I mean, there's negotiations. They haven't made a decision yet, but I agree with you, man. And it's not, COVID related any longer because they're filling the stadiums. They're going to fill the press box to normal levels. It's hypocritical, Jody.
It absolutely is. And one last thing, and we got to get a break in, but I do want to get you on record here. And I know you're smart enough not to name names. If there is an area off field where you'll have some area players coming off the field, open air, where you get a chance to talk with players, it's a competitive business you're in, and you're in with a group of guys who are everyday Eagle reporters. And over the last year or somewhere thereabouts, you've had to share information with everyone. Because Zoom is Zoom. Everybody gets the same exact quotes. Everybody's got to work with everybody else's questions and formulate stories on with them. When you get the chance to do something individually and one-on-one, there's some guys that are going to be a little cutthroat over the next however. Yeah. I know you're not going to name names, but do you have a guy that you say, yeah, I got to watch out for him. He's gonna do something to put himself in a better position to get the better storyline. There is one guy in that Eagle beat writer group that you have who's more cutthroat than anybody else, isn't there?
Cutthroat. It's interesting. Our buddy Kevin Kincaid did a story yesterday. The Inquirer hired somebody new, and I apologize, I don't know their name, to cover the Eagles, but I will meet him at some point. But he called us bloodthirsty. I think people would be surprised that we get along with each other. I mean, you see this show. I get basically everybody comes on this show with me because they like me. I think they do. Who knows? Not every.
They fake it well. We know they fake it well that they like you.
They fake it well. We don't hate each other. So no, there's nobody I worry about as being cutthroat, and if somebody gets a scoop, they got a scoop. I mean, Godspeed to them.
Who's the one guy would scare me? Rob Marty. He's too big. He's too cut. If he and I were going for the same
but player, Rob's the nicest guy in the world.
I'm going to end up on the floor. I know I'm going down. It's like a Triple H forearm. It's over and done with. I'm out of it if Marty wants to get to a guy that I'm trying to get to at a time. I got no shot, no chance. But that's you got to admit to your fears in life, right? Rob Marty scares me.
The scrum in the locker room is what the Eagles will use to keep us out of the locker room, because it's too small. They don't have a Clemson an Oregon locker room. They don't have this giant space area. So, it gets pretty intimidating. Some players hate it because there's 20 people glommed onto them in the locker room. So that part, I think the Eagles are going to use to their advantage and say, look, it's too crowded. We can't do it, blah, blah, blah. But as far as cutthroat, I mean, that's usually when that group leaves, and you generally the open locker room period is for an hour. I mean, it's generally when the TV people leave and the cameras leave and you're hanging around the locker room, you get guys one-on-one. That's where the good stuff happens. And that's, what people don't see. And that's what people are going to miss, whether they know it or not.
One of those bloodthirsty guys, Jeff Mosher, is going to join us next hour. Not all that bloodthirsty, just a good dude and a good Eagle reporter. He's going to join us next hour. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.